Thank you very much, Kathy. Well, we heard some good news from Transnet about their wage negotiations and having signed a wage agreement with the biggest union in the company. On the other hand, some unions representing the public sector workers are digging in their heels as the standoff between them and the government over the public sector wage negotiations have reached a deadlock. Government has indicated that the 3% wage increase is the final offer that the government will make, and that it will not reopen negotiations on the current offer. The PSA, however, maintains that the pending massive strike action will prompt the government to reconsider its position. To talk more briefly about this impasse, we are joined by the Public Servants Association spokesperson, Reuben Maleka, whose union represents over 230,000 government employees. Reuben, thank you very much for joining us this evening. Please give us an update on the deadlock, as we heard from government that they are not willing to budge as well, and they are not willing to reopen negotiations.
Good evening, Kolani, and good evening to the viewers at home. Yeah, first of all, let me clarify the part of government when you'll recall that in the past week, they went publicly to say that their offer is 7.5%. And we as unions, our demand is 6.5%, which means that if the employer is true and not lying, they've actually managed to give more than what we demand by 1%. So they must bring that 7.5, we'll sign it. We promise that we'll sign it because our demand is 6.5. Government went to tell all South Africans that their offer is 7.5. So we are waiting for them to bring it because they can't lie to the public, to South Africans, without consequence. Ours is to say, where we are today, we are sitting with employer who's giving us 3% and a cash gratuity that is going to end 31st of March 2023. The question is that when it ends, what happens to the public servants who's losing 1,000 rand in cash? So that is the misery that we are sitting with. And that is why today, as we speak right now, we could not have a resolution.
Reuben, a couple of weeks ago, you said that you were preparing to embark on a strike, and there was talk of a negotiated rules for picketing. How far are you with that particular process? Have those rules for picketing been agreed upon?
Yes, we have finalized the picketing rules today in the PSBC. We are waiting for the conciliating commissioner to finalize them, sign them off, and then gives to both parties, which is us and the employer. And then the PSA would be ready to give notice, 7 days notice, so that we can commence with the picketing in the workplaces. And then subsequent to the lapse of the 7 days notice, then we'll be ready to go on the full-blown strike action in the public service.
How sympathetic is PSA to the fact that government's fiscal position is really dire? And of course, the wage bill is a huge part of what government spends its money on. That's because we've already heard from other counterparts, such as SADTU, saying that they would be ready to sign this offer from government immediately. Are you sympathetic to what government has had to say with regards to their fiscal position?
Look, we would be sympathetic if they also behaved in a manner that shows that indeed there's no money. Firstly, before we are still even negotiating at 1%, the president went ahead to sign 3% backdated implementation to 2021 for all ministers, magistrates, and everybody else. Everybody who earns above $1 million, the president was upfront to give them 3% while we're at 1%. When we move to this 3% now, and we're thinking that now indeed maybe there's no money, let's consider 3% and cash gratuity that will continue. Then again, the president gives ministers, deputy ministers, free money that they will never pay for water, they will never pay for electricity. Yes, of course, we've made a noise about it. We understand that from today in the media we heard that the president has revised that particular ministerial, benefits. So, which obviously it was an early Christmas to ministers and deputy ministers. But in any event, that shows that if you could give that particular offer for every minister and a deputy minister, we can't even count them. There are too many. So that shows that there is money. So you can't plead poverty, but behave in a manner that shows that, in fact, you really talk about when there's no money, when it's about public servants. But if it's about them, the money is there. They could even say that in the midst of South African crisis, where people have lost jobs, where people are not even managed to find food on the table, they could even afford to say that those who earn millions don't pay electricity and water.
Reuben Maleka is the spokesperson for the Public Servants Association. Thank you very much for your time this evening. The PSA quite adamant that we should expect to see a massive strike in the civil service in the next couple of weeks or even days, judging by how the wage negotiations did collapse.